Karin with BBC News.
With midterm elections approaching, the American people prepare to make their voices heard on everything from inflation to crime and relations with Russia and the war in Ukraine. We travel the country, talking to voters about where they stand on the big issues. And we'll break down the impact of the upcoming elections on the US and the rest of the world. Follow the US midterm elections on the BBC News channel and
Hello, I'm Karin Giannone. This is Outside Source. The headlines: Rishi Sunak becomes Prime Minister, the UK's third in 7 weeks. He faces a series of major challenges, top of which a severe economic crisis. He spoke of difficult decisions he'd have to take.
I fully appreciate how hard things are. And I understand too that I have work to do to restore trust after all that has happened.
After being invited by King Charles to form a new government, he arrived in Downing Street to a warm reception and set to work on forming his new cabinet. No change in 2 of the big offices of state. James Cleverly remains Foreign Secretary. Jeremy Hunt stays at the Treasury. Suella Braverman returns as Home Secretary less than a week after she resigned, and Dominic Raab is Deputy Prime Minister. It comes as new figures show the task in hand, with the price of some household basics soaring.
You can see it on the shelves when you go into the supermarkets. You've got to really think about making better choices.
Ultimately, the cost needs to come down, or people's income needs to go up.
Hello and welcome, whether you're watching on PBS, in the UK or elsewhere around the world. Well, we start here in London, where it's been another momentous day in British politics. Rishi Sunak is tonight spending his first night in Downing Street as Prime Minister. Today, he became the UK's 57th Prime Minister, the first British Asian Prime Minister, and at 42 years old, the youngest PM in over 200 years. And he's the third to be appointed to the role this year. His in-tray is daunting and the work has already begun. In the past few hours, he's appointed a new cabinet. You may recognise many of the ministers. The 3 main offices of state to remain the same. Jeremy Hunt is Chancellor or Finance Minister. James Cleverly stays at the Foreign Office. Suella Braverman returns as Home Secretary after resigning last week. Dominic Raab returns to Cabinet as Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, positions he held under Boris Johnson, and Ben Wallace keeps his job as Defence Secretary. Michael Gove is returning to frontline politics, to the job he held under Boris Johnson, Levelling Up Secretary. Other names to mention: Grant Shapps is now Business Secretary and Penny Mordaunt stays as leader of the House of Commons. But let's go over to Downing Street and our political correspondent Jonathan Blake, who's been watching everything, all the comings and goings. Jonathan, yet again we can say what a day it has been in British politics.
Yes, Rishi Sunak in office